the President of the United States.
Resistance to the war was growing. Mr. Lincoln needed to reinvigorate the people, to explain to them, and perhaps himself, why this endless plague of war must continue.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated.
Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a one-room log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky, now LaRue County. His parents, Thomas Lincoln and Nancy Hanks Lincoln, were poor farmers. His childhood was filled with hardship. When Abraham was just 9 years old, his mother died from milk sickness. His father remarried a kind woman named Sarah Bush Johnston, who encouraged young Abraham to read and learn. Lincoln received little formal education, less than a year in total, but he loved books. He would often walk miles just to borrow a single book. His favorite works included the Bible, Aesop's Fables, and Robinson Crusoe. In 1830, the Lincoln family moved to Illinois in search of better farmland. Abraham, tall and strong, helped clear land and build fences. But he wanted more than a farmer's life. He dreamed of making a difference. At 22, Lincoln left home to seek his own path. He worked as a store clerk, a rail splitter, a flatboatman on the Mississippi River, and even tried his hand at business, though his first store failed. In 1832, he served briefly in the Black Hawk War as a militia captain. That same year, he ran for the Illinois state legislature, but lost. However, his honesty, hard work, and intelligence gained him respect. Lincoln studied law on his own, often borrowing books and reading late into the night. In 1834, he was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives as a member of the Whig Party. By 1836, he had become a successful lawyer. In 1842, Lincoln married Mary Todd, a well-educated woman from Kentucky. They had 4 sons, but sadly only one, Robert Todd Lincoln, lived to adulthood. In 1846, Lincoln was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he opposed the Mexican-American War and spoke against the expansion of slavery. After one term, he returned to Illinois and focused on his law practice. For nearly a decade, Lincoln stayed away from politics. But the 1854 Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed new territories to decide for themselves whether to allow slavery, reignited his passion. He believed slavery was morally wrong and should not spread to new territories. In 1858, Lincoln ran for the U.S. Senate against Stephen A. Douglas. The two held a series of debates known as the Lincoln-Douglas debates, which became famous nationwide. Lincoln lost the Senate race, but his speeches made him a national figure and a rising star in the new Republican Party. By 1860, Lincoln's reputation as a man of integrity and his strong stance against the expansion of slavery led to his nomination as the Republican candidate for president. Lincoln was elected 16th President of the United States in November 1860. His victory angered many southern states, which soon began to secede from the Union. By the time he took office in March 1861, the nation was on the brink of civil war. In April 1861, Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina, and the Civil War officially began. Lincoln's main goal was to preserve the Union. He faced criticism from both abolitionists, who wanted slavery ended immediately, and moderates, who feared going too far. On January 1, 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved people in Confederate states to be free. While it did not end slavery everywhere, it transformed the war into a fight not just for the Union, but for freedom and human rights. The war was long and bloody. Lincoln often visited soldiers' hospitals and battlefields, offering words of encouragement. He gave powerful speeches, including the Gettysburg Address in November 1863, where he spoke of a new birth of freedom and the importance of democracy. Lincoln also faced personal struggles. His son, Willie, died in 1862, leaving him and Mary Todd deeply heartbroken. Despite challenges, Lincoln was re-elected in 1864. His leadership helped guide the Union toward victory. By April 1865, the Civil War was nearly over. On April 9th, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse, ending the conflict. Lincoln began planning for national healing and reconstruction, urging forgiveness rather than punishment for the South. Just days later, on April 14, 1865, Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. He was shot by John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer. Lincoln died the next morning on April 15, 1865, the first U.S. president to be assassinated. Abraham Lincoln is remembered as one of the greatest leaders in history. He guided America through its darkest hours, preserved the Union, and struck a fatal blow against slavery. Known as Honest Abe and the Great Emancipator, his legacy of freedom, equality, and democracy continues to inspire the world. Today, monuments such as the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., honor his memory, and his words still echo across generations. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
To the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.